Hey everyone, how you going? So I'm just going to give an update of what's going on with the lady in Kalgoorlie. I'm just waiting for Facebook to get their thing together for the notifications. So give it a couple of minutes. So, yeah, updates today from the lady in Kalgoorlie who was contacted again by Services Australia staffer in regards to her complaints regarding her job agency and referring to the CDC and trying to get off of it, resulted in another 3 hours of stress for this lady. And it's just ridiculous what they're doing. It is just crazy what they're going through, you know what I mean? Again, trying to push for her to activate the card when she's been told no, and she keeps telling them no, and then going on about, well, it could take up to 60 days for her to get an answer. You know, 60 days? This is ridiculous. She'll be off her payment within 60 days. All right? Why can't they just cancel this now? All right? Because this is going to cause this woman to become homeless no matter what we do, right? With the GoFundMe money that's raised, by the time we get through the release period of, you know, releasing the funds and getting the funds to her, that only pays for 4 weeks' rent. Okay? And then that's it. Meanwhile, the department seems to be, well, it can take up to 60 days to get an answer. Why? Why? You know what I mean? This is just getting ridiculous. And this guy that rang her today, again, wanting to know, questioning her psychiatrists and her psychology team, you know what I mean? To the point, this is ridiculous what's going on, you know? Wanting to know, how long has he been in Australia? What are his credentials? Is he registered here? Does he speak English here? Right? It's like, hang on a minute. It's an inquisition about her psychologist and her medical team and asking them if they're qualified. It's like, this is a guy from Services Australia. This is just crap what they're putting her through, you know what I mean? Then he's trying to say to her, I'll cancel the application you've got in for exemption and start again. Why? Why? Why would you cancel current application and start again? I don't know. I have no idea. So this lady's dealing with Senator Sue Lyons' office, and I've told her to go back through Senator Sue Lyons' office because they're dealing with it, and start pushing, because this is not good enough. This is not good enough at all. What they're doing to these people is absolutely horrendous. And it's just putting people through stress they don't need, right? This woman is a New Zealand national. Her payments expire in August. Why put her on the card now if it's anything other than try and just get money for Indu? For the, you know, that's all it's about, is getting money for Indu. It's not about her health, or they don't care. They've already stated that being made homeless as a result of this procedure is not a good enough reason for exemption. I mean, I beg your pardon? You know, before they slapped her with this card, she was not at risk of homelessness. All right? Her plans were to, knowing that her payments cease in August, she would have been vigorously looking for work, so that, because she doesn't qualify for family payments because of the problem with the New Zealand issue, you know what I mean, the New Zealand status. And it's just going on and on and on every day, right? Yeah. And the crap, the amount of gaslighting this woman's being put through is just not fair. It's just absolutely horrendous. And why? Why is this? Oh my God. So, Tempest has just popped up here. Hers got cancelled today and they told her to start again with a doctor's letter and medical support. So how many more times do you have to do opt out, appeal, right? The works. So they cancelled your application to get off a third time, Tempest, and told you, oh, All right, go to the doctors in Kalgoorlie, go and get the medical reports and watch them question everything, ins and outs of those doctors at that Kalgoorlie mental health service, because that's what they're doing to this lady. You know, the New Zealander lady, the constant questions from the social worker that now longer doesn't exist, you know, in regards to his qualifications. And then again today from the Services Australia member, you know, what are these people's qualifications to what gives some level 2, right, public servant or Serco worker the right to question the medical qualifications of doctors? That's what gets me. These people are not medical doctors. They're not qualified. They're level 2 public servants or Serco workers. So why are they asking about, well, how long has the doctor been in Australia? Is he registered? Well, duh. If he'd have looked, and then he says, oh, we've got all your documentation in front of us. Well, funnily enough, the doctor had uploaded all of his stuff on the Kalgoorlie Mental Health Services letterhead. Right? Are these people for real? You know, now, oddly enough, this social worker or Services Australia worker that rang her today said that he supports her application to get off the card, but it's got to go to the CDC team and they could take up to 60 days to decide. So she promptly read him out the legislation where it clearly states Services Australia staff have the power to instruct Indu to release her off the card. So she went, so I left her alone over the weekend and she went and studied the legislation. So, and again, of course, you know, another subtle push. Oh, well, if you activate the card, no. She has 2 doctors and a lawyer saying don't activate the card. Okay, so she's doing what she's advised by her medical professionals, and her lawyer would like to get paid his fees from her divorce settlement and stuff like that, which that's another issue going on the card. He won't get paid, right? Because you can't pay him on the card. It's just, oh, it is just disgusting what's going on. All right. So a little update with Mahalia, who is still waiting, of course. Now, this got really interesting because I watched Senate estimates this afternoon and everybody played dumb about Mahalia, right? Claimed that they didn't know anything about her situation. Yet the department responded to Marcus Paul 2SM on his page and specifically said that the Brunswick Crossing IGA now works. Now, this is really weird because Mahalia went down there. Now, it has 2 FPOS machines. One works for alcohol and one is for food. Now, he's not supposed to process food through his alcohol terminal because it buggers up his bookwork, all right? But the card does not work through the normal terminal for shopping. So for a little while, he was putting stuff through the alcohol terminal to help her out, but it was buggering up his books. So he stopped it. He said, no, I can't do that anymore. The alcohol terminal is for alcohol. Right? Oddly enough, she can buy alcohol with the card through the alcohol terminal. Right? But she can't buy food with the card through the food terminal. And she's had this problem for 2 years. Now, it was highlighted in the media before Christmas, and the department gave a statement to Channel 7 back then that they would look into it, and they haven't. And today they've tried dumb. They tried to make out. Then another one jumped in and said, oh, I'm fully aware of what's going on. One does, one doesn't. You know what I mean? It was quite interesting to see them bounce it around to the point where one of them tried to blame Mahalia. Trying to blame Mahalia because the FPOS machine in the IGA does not accept her card. Right? They claim that they've been in contact with that particular business. We'll see. I will see. Only Mahalia can tell us when she can go to the shops again and see what happens. Right? But I think the owner of that IGA is getting sick of this. So is she, of course. Right, because she has to travel to another town to go shopping. She doesn't drive. She has to rely on friends and family to take her. And then she needs to be able to give them petrol money. Can't do that when you can't access any cash. And none of them are on the Indu card, so she can't do an Indu to Indu transfer with any of them. Right? It's just pathetic what they're going through, what these people are being put through. Right? So while I was listening to Senate estimates, when it came up about Mahalia, right, they carried on as if, oh, it's all been fixed now. And it's like, no, it hasn't. Mahalia still can't buy food, right? There was one instance last week where the card appeared to work. She seems to think he switched the terminals around because the week before, the lettuce, tomato and everything else didn't work. Sunday, you saw the picture I put up. The yogurt, the Oreos, the bananas, the mandarins, the bread didn't work, right? Luckily, she had enough in her own personal account to pay for it. But that's not the point, all right? She has been stuck in that town. She fled domestic violence from Hervey Bay. And and for 2 years, she hasn't been able to do shopping in that town. She can't use it anywhere else in town. Right, she tried to use it at the service station to be able to pay for friends' fuel, and it didn't work. She can't use it at the post office. Most definitely can't use it at the pub. Ironically, she can buy alcohol at the IGA, but she can't use it at the pub for a pub meal. Right? So, yeah, what does she do? What does she do? It's just going over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's like, oh my God. So now I've got another lady. She's off grid. This is really interesting, this is. Excuse me. Another person out of region. So this person originally lived in Calliope, up past Gladstone. It's not a card region, right? And her ex-partner lives in Bundaberg. And she was travelling backwards and forwards to see her daughter, which was rather expensive every weekend. Okay, so she ends up moving down to Childers for a temporary period of time, living in a tent, mind you, right? So that I'm going through this as I'm just going through the story, right? So her ex-partner decided to help out the farmers for the season, right? So she went down to help out, and that way she could see her daughter more easily. And he wanted to help out the farmers. So they were staying at a campground in Childers, right? Centrelink told us we needed to have an address there, even if it was only temporarily. So they gave it to them as temporarily, because each week she also had to move campsites. It wasn't a fixed address. Now that she's been told that because they were there during the time of the rollout, that is the reason she's being kept on the card. She was not a permanent resident of Childers. She's a permanent resident of Calliope, which is up by Gladstone, a totally different region, 4 hours further up the road, right? And on top of that, she lives off grid. Okay, so all she's being told now is the reasons why and how she can use it. The woman Googled where she lived and made the declaration that she's got to travel a fair way to a shop, which is really expensive, and she budgets every penny to a cent, right? Homeschools her, I think she homeschools her children as well, I'm not sure. All right, when she brought up the question about her living off grid, the woman questioned her daughter's safety. What? It's like, what are you on about? All right, so this woman's trying to study. She has to drive to Bundy every weekend to see her daughter, and she has to deal with her ex who's still playing games of coercive control. All right, plus she needs time to look for full-time work. this is just driving her nuts as well. So she popped up on our No Cashless Debit Card Hinkler region page, and the result was, and I'll read the post. She goes, "Have had a wellbeing exemption denied due to no proof that the card is causing me harm, and I'm not using it. I live in the middle of the bush, so everything's cash only. I've also had her appeal overturned due to not having a good enough reason to get off. Apparently buying firewood and food is not essential over winter. I have to get stacked decks to where she buys her firewood, which is off the side of the road in an honesty box, and the same with her fruit and veg. And neither of the people that are running those stalls have the time, nor do they want to put their name down, which I don't blame them. They're entitled to their privacy. All right, she said she just wants to break down and cry. I don't know what to do. I'm not going to be able to focus on my studies or have a stress-free weekend with my daughter or able to heat my house over winter. Right? This is just going ridiculous. So I told her, appeal again and go to the senators. Right? And I told her, don't give up, just keep pushing, because you can't give up. You can't give up. So I asked her how she ended up on the card, and that's how she, but she just had this case manager just ring her out the blue and tell her that her application has been chucked out because she doesn't believe it needs to go any further. Wellness exemption cancelled because some social worker on the other phone says, I don't think it needs to go any further. Right? It's just getting so stupid as to what they're doing to people. I mean, all that support work or Services Australia work or whoever it was, she Googled about the area and the fact that the card hasn't been used, and she can't prove that it's causing any harm. But she was living in a campsite, in a tent. It wasn't a fixed address. But, of course, they trapped her. Do you know what I mean? The attitude of the staff is, well, she wasn't very nice, cut me off a lot and just wanted to proceed by telling me how to get around the difficulties of the card. So these people seem to be really obnoxious and keep going on about workarounds, how to get round the card rather than letting people off the card. Okay? Remember, this is about money for Indu and their stakeholders, and making sure people are contracted to the card so they can get their initial payment and then their ongoing yearly payments. It doesn't matter what is happening to these people, what's going on with these people, how it's impacted them and their children, whether they're going hungry or not, right? It's just ridiculous what's going on. So she tried to explain how she buys wood. This woman turned around and said that she shouldn't be buying more than one bag of firewood a fortnight. She goes, I have to buy 2 or 3 times a week. And I remember doing this. I lived in a house that had a wood burner in South Australia. And it was costing me a fortune because I couldn't afford to buy a trailer for $180. So I'd have to go up to the servo and buy the $15 bag of wood or the $20 bag of wood plus a little bit of kindling and stuff. And I was spending $50-$60 a week on wood, cash, This woman is driving her nuts. So they're stopping people from buying wood, and they're using any excuse to stop people from getting off the card. Any excuse. And it's just getting ridiculous. Marge says she'd lose it. I would too. I'd be off my face. I wouldn't be able to cope with it. I mean, what they've done to the lady in Kalgoorlie, another 3 hours on the phone. All right? Yeah. And You know, they don't want to let people off the card because they're making money off of them yearly. All right, apart from the initial setup cost. Julie Collins, I use 10 trailer loads a season at 150 a trailer load. Yep. They don't get it, do they? And they don't like the fact that this person's living off grid. So what? You know, she's trying to renovate her house to keep it warm, and now she's having to apply for permission to access funds to be able to buy the things to renovate her house. It's just going on and on and on and on and on, you know. It's just, I don't know what to say. We need to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. This has got to stop. This is not going to stop. People are going to keep coming forward. People are going to be in difficulty. People are not going to be able to just work around. You know what I mean? What's the workaround for starvation and the elements? That's a good question, isn't it, Julie? What is the workaround for that when you just cannot access anything? All right. For some reason, they can't understand, the lady in Kalgoorlie, can't get it through their thick skull that she will be homeless, right, if they don't stop this situation with the car. And they can't seem to understand why. And to her, they've told her being made homeless is not a good enough reason to be exempted from the card. But if they hadn't given her the card, she would not be in any risk of being homelessness at all, because her landlord is fantastic and he's really happy with her as a tenant. Now, all the other rents in Kalgoorlie are going up, 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 up. And he's agreed to keep her rent at the rate that it is now. And once she gets through all this drama, then he'll do her up a new lease at the same rent. Okay? But you've got the Services Australia bloke now stressing her out, telling her, oh, it could take another 60 days. In 60 days' time, her job seeker payment cancels out anyway. Then the question becomes, are they still going to be holding her family tax benefit A and B and her end of year supplement on the card? All right? It's crazy. Julie, I'm happy to head back down to Indu's offices again anytime you want. I just need to be able to make sure there's funds in the account for petrol for me and food, and yeah, we can go back down to Indu offices whenever you like. But this is Services Australia doing this as well. They know what they're doing. They're purposely doing this. Now, yesterday we saw Bianca got off the card, but the trauma they put her through in the first place, right? Sandra says, do they actually care if someone becomes homeless? No, they don't. No. They made Tempest homeless while she was pregnant and she was couch surfing, right? Because they wouldn't give her a housing limit to be able to pay rent. She still doesn't actually have a housing allowance. What they're making her do is pay, use her $200 every 28 days and just give her a little bit extra of that to pay her rent where she is, because her owner won't put her on the lease, because he doesn't put people on the Indu card on the lease, because he's been through it. That's another owner that's come forward and said, no, I have no problem with people on Centrelink. I have no problem with Indigenous people. I do not allow people with Basics card and Indu card because the rents are always paid late. Then my bank charges me default fees, and I don't want to put up with that. And that's fair call. Why should your owner have to put up with late fees on his mortgage because of this convoluted thing? And then the department says, oh, but it's really easy. You can organise to transfer your money back from Indu to your account to your landlord's account. Well, hang on a minute. It's not that easy because you have to get permission, right? And we can see when they keep stuffing up and saying, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. Right, you have to fight like hell. Like we saw with Mahalia, 6 weeks behind in rent before they decided, oh, okay, we'll let you pay your landlord because she's gone onto a periodic lease. Right, it took how much effort on our behalf? Let her pay rent. We're still trying to get her to pay food. right? Because the only working terminal in that IGA is the alcohol terminal, you know? And, yeah. All we can do is people don't shut up about this. If you're being impacted by the cashless debit card, if they're giving you the runaround, let us know. But, oh my God, it's so tiring. It is really tiring. And I'm not on the card. You know, it's disgusting. And we don't know the half of it. We don't know how many people have been made homeless. We've only got the ones that we know about. You know, I met another family, and a mum and 2 kids are living in a cabin because they lost their house. So many. They did let a guy from Kalgoorlie off the card a couple of weeks ago, but he's sleeping in his car and has been for months. You know, why is that, I wonder, you know? But he took it to an AAT tribunal. I've got someone to check up on tomorrow because she's expecting her decision to be finalised tomorrow as well. It'll be interesting to see if they take that to an AAT2 level, because it's funny, the guy that had $500 stuck in his card and he got to AAT, they let him off his card, gave him back his $500, but the other lady's got over $35,000 stuck in the card, and yet she's been made to wait since the 30th of April for the decision, even though AAT have overturned the decision that Services Australia made to keep her on the card. You know what I mean? Oh dear, oh dear. I spent the afternoon watching Senate estimates, Julie. I didn't watch House of Reps. I watched the Senate estimates for a while. But I'm just getting... Oh, it's so tiring. It really is. But we mustn't give up the fight for these people. Watching Senate estimates, I watched the minister and their little merry band of people turn around and say that that problem's all been fixed for Mahalia. And while Rachel Seward was talking about it and questioning them, I'm texting Rachel going, no. She couldn't buy food on Sunday. The problem's still not fixed, right? And the only terminal that she can use is the alcohol terminal. She can buy as much bloody grog as she wants. She just can't buy food. Yeah, they're trying any which way they can to keep people on the card. Simple as that. Simple as that. It's not about the person. They don't care how much poverty they're driven the people into. They don't care what they're causing their kids, their dramas to their kids. I mean, for God's sakes, the lady in Kalgoorlie's had to pull her child out of therapy. Now, he was attending therapy because of the trauma that they've just both been through. But she's had to now pull him out of therapy. If they hadn't have sent her this card, she wouldn't have had that trouble. He would be going to his therapy like normal. Right? And then the social worker wanted her to pull him out of school. Why? Why would she pull him out of school? Right now she's got school on her back because she's can't pay the school fees, and school's demanding $568 for a school excursion, and then blaming her, saying that how dare she disadvantage her child. Yeah. So I don't know. Hang on a second. I'll just answer it. It's causing a lot of trouble over there, you know what I mean? If your owner takes Centrepay, yep, you can avoid the rental issues and use Centrepay. But not all owners use Centrepay, and they don't have to use Centrepay, right? And the lady in Kalgoorlie's, he has made it very clear, and if you scroll down this page, there's the email that he sent. He will not accept Centrepay. He does not want anything to do with Centrelink. He does not consent for Centrelink, Indu, or any of their stakeholders to have his details anymore, right? You know, and consider this. NRAS housing has ended, okay? And in Queensland alone, 10,000 people are now at risk of homeless in one hit, bang, because NRAS ended on the 30th of May. Now, I knew about NRAS ending in South Australia, and a few of you might have seen the post where Rita from South Australia was at risk of almost being on the street, right, because her rent had been put up $100 a week, right, to something like $320 a week. Well, a person on JobSeeker can't afford that, all right? But then yesterday I found out that 10,000 people in Queensland are now trying to find affordable housing after their NRAS housing has now ended. 10,000 in one hit. We have 47,000 homeless people here. All right. I'm not sure the setup for Centre Pay for individuals, I think, is $1,400. You have to set up a bank account. You have to get an ABN. You have to do audits. Right. It's complicated. All right. Up that. And then you are charged 99 cents for each transaction that you receive. That's my understanding of it. Not every owner wants to use it. They don't have to use it. You know what I mean? So, and trying to bully owners into doing it as well. Well, they're not even doing that. But I'm just absolutely disgusted. The lies that I heard today, NRAS, National Rental Affordability Scheme for Housing. So it was, and it ran for about 10 years. And the government have now cut the funding to it. So those homes now return to full market value. They were about 20% less than market value. They were still out of range of a person like me. I looked at it when I was trying to move, and I couldn't, I couldn't afford the NRAS housing anywhere near Brisbane. It was out of my price range anyway. Centrelink staff or Services Australia staff are really speaking to people like crap. Now, the funny thing I'm noticing, and I'm going to say this because I speak to a lot of people, right, that are non-Indigenous, right, and Indigenous that are on the card, and the distinct difference in how they're treated needs to be addressed. This subtle racial profiling has to stop, okay, because I do see discrepancies where non-Indigenous people are treated differently. They have more access to being able to access the $200 every 28 days to be able to buy things. They are approved more on the ability to buy things against non-Indigenous people who just get shut down and get told, no, you can't access your $200. No, you can't buy that item. No, you're spending too much money, right? It's it's becoming very stark that there is an issue, right, of racial profiling element in this. And yes, it is racist policy. It is a racist policy when some people who are non-Indigenous can get things or the card works easier for some and not others. It's becoming very noticeable. But yeah, people are getting sick of being treated like dirt over the phone. People are getting sick of being spoken to like they're dirt, right? And there's something like worse than on the bottom of your shoe mentality. It's not good enough. It's not good enough at all. And then to hear the minister tell lies, well, they do that all the time, don't they? In Senate estimates today, and saying it's all been fixed now. But at first, the minister and her delegate didn't know anything about it. That's rubbish, right? Because the department made a complete reply to Marcus Paul 2SM's page and purposely pointed out that the store at Brunswick Crossing was now working. When it's not. It's not working properly at all. All right? It hasn't changed the situation for Mahalia. It's... You know, so Mahalia still can't buy food. Okay? Yep, they had a problem with her rent. My God, did they have a problem with her rent. This last week, she was able to pay rent. Fingers crossed. Let's see how long that lasts before it declines again and she's got to go for a reset all over again. Now, Mahalia was told that she would have a decision by Friday or Monday, right? initially the other lady in Kalgoorlie was told she'd have some sort of decision by next week. They seem to be stringing them all along. I don't know why, but these people don't have time to be strung along. And my message to Anne Ruston and the CDC department is get these people off the card, right? This New Zealand national will be off a trigger payment in 2 months anytime. But the difference is, if you hadn't given her the card in the first place and locked up her money, she would not be in the situation she is now. She would not be facing homelessness at the end of the month, right? Why make her homeless, knowing that the following month she will have no job seeker? At least if she's got a home, she's got some stability, she can look for a job, which is what her plans are, because in order to stay here, she's going to need to find a job. And she's not scared to work. She's worked here for 10 years. It's the domestic violence situation, the lack of childcare, and you know, can't a woman take a breather, you know what I mean, after the hell that person's been through? She just wants to be able to feed her kids and do things normally. But it's all being blocked because of Indu and Services Australia and very nasty support staff, support workers. You know, so, but what got me was Bianca's case was a phone call out of the blue 2 to 3 weeks ago saying she was going back on the card. Okay, so Bianca followed in the same procedure, went and contacted a federal MP, and put in an opt-out straight away, an appeal again. Okay, luckily she got the same support worker she got last time. The drama they put her through because that pup, and deliberately sending her card to her old address in Sydney. See, these people are not in regions either. At the moment, I've got 3 people out of region. The only person who's in region is the New Zealand national, who should not be going on the card anyway. It's just enough to make you want to tear your hair out, I can tell you that. And then listening to certain estimates, I had to turn it off when they were talking about Anne Ruston being the Minister for Women's Safety and Economic Security. That was it. That was it. It's like women's safety and economic security, and look what you're doing to me. You know, it's far from that. Absolutely far from that. Anyway, I thought I'd just give you those updates. So we've got a lady in the middle of the bush who lives off-grid, can't buy food properly, can't buy wood. And, yeah, we've got Mahalia who can't buy food. And we've got this other lady at the moment who's in total limbo. If they don't take off that card by the end of the month, she will be out on the street. She doesn't even have a car to sleep in. And there's nowhere to go. Last time she went to the women's refuge in Kalgoorlie, her ex went there and abused her. Right? He's abused her in the shops. So, and Coles and Woolies in Kalgoorlie don't do home delivery. She's on foot. So it's an hour-and-a-half walk to Coles. You know what I mean? And back. With a baby in a pram, expected to go and do the shopping on foot. I'm sick of the gaslighting and why don't you do this and why don't you do that? Because she hasn't got the money. She's focusing on looking after her kids. Where do these people get off with the remarks and the comments? You're not supposed to be making personal remarks to people. You know, the lady that lives in the bush, good on her. If she's got a small place that she owns and that she's off-grid and she's doing it up to make it a nice home, why bring the child's safety into it? What, because you don't have electricity on you? You don't, you know what I mean? I'm just over this. I really am. But anyway, I'm not over it. I'm not going to stop. And I want you guys out there to not stop either. But we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to start some on-ground actions, I think, around the place. Because when you've got the Minister for Women carrying on about women's safety and women's economic safety and security, but they're doing this to women and children, all right, that are vulnerable, that have survived domestic violence, fleeing domestic violence, in hiding or whatever. You're not protecting their safety or their economic security. You're making sure that they're bankrupted and they don't get back off the ground ever again. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I mean, it's funny, they try to, in the Senate estimates, they're trying to refer to people as customers now. Well, they certainly don't treat people like customers, do they? They don't have a clue about customer service. All right? You know, I'm just going through the comments here. You know, if anybody else treated their customers like the way Services Australia do, they'd be sacked. You know? So I don't know how people live with the comments they make to people on Social Security. And like today, the lady from Kalgoorlie read the legislation out to the Services Australia bloke and said, well, it's your department supposed to recommend that I get taken off this card. You're saying that you're in favour of me. Why can't you do it? Oh, it has to go to the CDC group. It has to go through a process and it could take up to 60 days. She hasn't got 60 days. All right? Simple as that. And once her payment's finished anyway, she doesn't know what she's doing next. She got to try and find a job. In this climate, with a 1-year-old baby in tow, there is 4 childcare centres in Kalgoorlie, and they're all booked up until 2023. Meanwhile, her ex is fine because he's earning his money and he's got his freedom and he's got nothing to worry about, right? And he doesn't even care to show. I mean, they have forced access. The poor kid doesn't get a choice, and he turns up for the 1 hour a week supervised access with his father, and the kid sits there triggered and stressed, and the father doesn't turn up. But they've got to go every week, right? Because it's court ordered. It's just abuse, abuse and abuse and abuse and abuse. And I don't know how much more this woman can take. She's holding up pretty strong and she's standing firm and she's doing exactly what her doctors are telling her to do and everything. You know? But, yeah, 60 days is too long. Her payment will be cut off in August. You know what I mean? Which is in 60 days' time. But it'll be too late then. She won't have a home to live in. Where's she going to go? She can't go to the refuge because they already know. The police in that town already know they can't take her to the women's refuge because her husband knows where it is. Because that's where he went for her before. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm just going to say good night.